At 72, I arrived at my beach house expecting a peaceful weekend by the ocean. Instead, I found strangers sleeping in my rooms, my clothes and family memories stuffed into trash bags, and my daughter-in-law standing in my doorway wearing my apron as if the house belonged to her. Then she looked me in the eye and told me there was no room for me. She thought I was an old woman who would be too embarrassed to fight back. She was wrong, because while her family laughed on my porch, drank from my glasses, and treated my late husband's dream like their private resort, I still had the deed in my name, photographs of everything they had done, every message proving they had no permission to stay there, and one signed document my daughter-in-law had completely forgotten existed. By the end of that weekend, the people who had ordered me out would be carrying their suitcases down my driveway. The locks would be changed. The damage would be documented, and my own son would finally be forced to choose between protecting the truth and protecting the woman who had humiliated his mother. But the moment that changed everything came before any lawyer, locksmith, or confrontation. It came when I opened my garage and saw 4 years of my life packed into black plastic bags. My wedding photograph was leaning against cleaning supplies. My husband Raymond's cardigan had been thrown in with damp beach towels. That was when I stopped wondering whether I was overreacting. That was when I decided nobody was going to take my home, my memories, or my dignity simply because they believed I was too old to defend them. My name is Dorothy Harwood. Most people call me Dottie. And this is the story of the weekend my daughter-in-law tried to claim the beach house I had built in memory of my late husband, and learned that kindness is not the same thing as surrender. I spent much of my life in Minneapolis, where my husband Raymond worked for public schools, repairing heating systems, and I worked from home as a seamstress. We were not rich people. We were careful people. There is a difference. Raymond knew how to make a dollar last. I knew how to turn an old dress into something beautiful enough for a wedding. We raised one son, Eric, paid our bills on time, and saved a little whenever we could. Every month, Raymond put money into an envelope in the kitchen drawer. On the front, in his blocky handwriting, he had written 2 words, the sea. He had seen the Atlantic Ocean only once when he was a boy, but he never forgot it. He used to sit beside me while I worked at the kitchen table and say, "Someday, Dottie, we'll have 2 chairs on a porch where we can hear the ocean." I would laugh and tell him, "At the rate we're saving, we'll be 90. He always answered, "Then we'll be the best-looking 90-year-olds in Massachusetts." That was Raymond. He could make a dream feel real long before we had enough money to touch it. We never got to sit on that porch together. After 44 years of marriage, he became ill. It happened quickly. One winter, I was still complaining that he left his boots too close to the radiator, and by spring, I was learning how to sleep alone. The silence after losing someone you have loved for most of your adult life is difficult to explain. Sometimes grief is simply reaching for a second coffee cup before remembering there is no one to fill it, or turning toward a chair that will always be empty. A few months after Raymond died, I finally opened the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside was a weathered folder labeled "Our Place by the Water." There were printed listings of cottages from Maine to Massachusetts. There were handwritten notes about roofs, plumbing, taxes, and repairs. Raymond had even estimated how much I could save by painting walls myself. One listing had been circled in blue ink. It was a tired gray cottage in Rockport. The porch leaned. The kitchen was old, the roof needed work. The yard was half weeds. At the bottom, Raymond had written one sentence. "This one feels like Dottie." I bought it the following spring. And since you're listening to my story right now, I'm curious about something. What country are you listening from? Please tell me in the comments below. I never imagined a quiet woman like me would have a story worth sharing beyond my own family, and I would truly love to know how far it travels. The cottage took nearly everything I had. I used my savings for the down payment, and I kept sewing to pay for repairs. I replaced the roof first, then the pipes, then the windows. I repaired the porch boards one section at a time. I painted the kitchen cabinets pale cream, found a dining table at an estate sale, and filled the rooms with inexpensive pieces that had character. Near the front steps, I planted blue hydrangeas. In the living room, I hung Raymond's brass clock. In the bedroom closet, I kept one of his navy cardigans. And on the porch, I placed 2 chairs facing the water. One for me, one for the man who never got there. The first person I invited was my son, Eric. He stood at the porch railing for a long time without saying anything. Finally, he looked at me and said, "Dad would have loved this." "I hope so," I told him. "It cost enough." He laughed and hugged me. For years after that, Eric respected the cottage. He asked before visiting. He cleaned up after himself. If he borrowed something, he returned it. Then he married Kelsey. At first, I wanted to like her. Kelsey was polished, stylish, energetic, and social. She knew how to walk into a room and become the center of it without appearing to try. She wore beautiful clothes, carried expensive handbags, and seemed to take photographs of everything she ate, wore, visited, or purchased. When she and Eric married, I told myself her confidence might be good for him. Eric had always avoided conflict. As a boy, if two friends argued, he would disappear into another room. As an adult, he called that quality keeping the peace. I called it what it was, avoidance. Still, I welcomed Kelsey. I cooked meals she liked. I remembered her birthday. I made her a set of linen napkins after she admired mine. The first real mistake I made was giving her access to the cottage. One January, a winter storm damaged a window near the back bedroom. Eric and Kelsey were traveling in Massachusetts and offered to check on the house. I mailed Eric an emergency key. Along with it, I sent a short written agreement. The key was for approved visits, maintenance, or emergencies. No overnight guests without my written permission. No sharing the key. No moving personal belongings. No changes to the property. Eric signed the agreement and returned a scanned copy. At the time, it felt almost silly. He was my son. But Raymond had always taught me that good records protect good relationships. Write things down when everyone still likes each other, he used to say. That's when people are willing to be clear. That sentence would save me years later. After the storm, I asked Eric to return the key. He said he would. Then weeks passed. I forgot. Kelsey did not. Her behavior changed slowly. The first time, she opened a bottle of wine from my cabinet during a visit without asking. The next time, she borrowed 2 sets of sheets because she wanted clean coastal colors for photographs. Then I saw a picture online of Kelsey and 2 friends drinking coffee on my porch. The caption said, "A quiet afternoon at our family's seaside retreat." I called her. "Kelsey, the cottage is my private home." She laughed lightly. "Oh, Dorothy, I know, it's just a caption." Then the caption can say, "You visited my home." There was a pause. "You're very particular." "Yes," I said, "about things that belong to me." After that, she became sweeter around me, but more careless when I was not present. I heard from a neighbor that several cars had been at the cottage one weekend. Kelsey said they had only stopped by after lunch. Eric said, "Mom, she doesn't mean anything by it." That became his favorite sentence. He used that excuse when she borrowed things, took photographs in private rooms, or called the cottage oars. One evening, I finally told Eric, intent does not erase behavior. He became quiet. "Mom, I don't want to be stuck between you two. You are not between us. I am asking you to respect a boundary." She'll think I'm taking your side. You should not need to take sides when one side is simply asking another person not to take what is theirs. He promised to speak with her. I do not believe he ever did. Then came that September weekend. On Thursday evening, Eric sent me a text. "Kelsey wants to stop by the cottage tomorrow and pick up a serving tray she thinks she left there. Is that okay?" I was preparing to travel there myself. I replied, "She may stop by between 10 and 2. I will arrive Friday afternoon. Please remind her that I am not allowing overnight visitors." Eric wrote back, "Understood. I'll tell her." I saved the message automatically because I saved everything important. The next morning, I flew from Minneapolis to Boston. My flight arrived early. Traffic was unusually light. By the time I reached Rockport, the sky was blue, the air smelled like salt, and I was already thinking about tea on the porch. Then I turned onto my street. Cars were everywhere. A black SUV partly blocked my driveway. A red pickup truck was parked close to my hydrangeas. 2 children were chasing each other near the front steps. Music was coming from inside the cottage. At first, I wondered whether one of my neighbors was hosting a party. Then I saw a young man walk out of my front door carrying one of my glasses. My stomach tightened. I parked farther down the road and walked back. The closer I came, the worse it looked. Wet towels covered my porch railing. Plastic cups were sitting beside my roses. Someone had dragged one of my porch cushions onto the lawn. My front door was propped open with Raymond's old wooden toolbox. That detail hurt more than I expected. Raymond had carried that toolbox for years. The handle was worn smooth by his hand. Now someone was using it as a doorstop. I stepped onto the porch. A woman I had never met smiled at me. "Hey, are you one of Kelsey's relatives?" "I'm Dorothy Harwood." Her smile disappeared. Before she could answer, Kelsey came through the doorway. She was wearing my blue floral apron. I had sewn that apron during the last winter of my marriage. Raymond used to tease me because I had added pockets large enough to carry scissors, thread, and half the kitchen. Kelsey stared at me. "Dorothy, Wes, what are you doing here?" I looked past her into my own living room. There were people everywhere. Food covered the dining table. Someone had moved the brass clock from the mantel. Children were sitting on the sofa with plates in their laps. "I am arriving at my home," I said. Her face tightened. "Eric said you were coming later." Eric knew I was coming today. From inside, someone shouted, "Kelsey, where are the extra blankets?" Kelsey turned her head and called back, "Apparently we're short one bedroom now." Then she looked at me. "There really isn't room for another guest?" I cannot describe what that sentence did to me. Not because it was loud, not because it was cruel in an obvious way, because she said it casually, as though I were an inconvenience, as though I had shown up uninvited. At my own house, several people nearby stopped talking. I asked, "How many people are staying here?" Kelsey sighed. "It's just family and a few friends." "How many?" "I don't know. 15, maybe 18 with the kids." "You were given permission to pick up a serving tray." Plans changed. Not with my permission. Her mother stepped out from the kitchen. I had met her only a few times. She looked me up and down and said, "Dorothy, this is supposed to be a family weekend. Surely you can be flexible." I stared at her. "Whose family weekend?" Kelsey gave a small laugh. "Ulrich is your only child. Eventually the house will be his. We are not strangers." That was the first moment I understood this was not simply bad manners. She believed time itself had already transferred my property to her. Because I was older, she had mentally moved me out of my own future. I asked, "Where is my suitcase supposed to go?" Kelsey shrugged. "The inn near the harbor usually has rooms." Then, with people listening, she added, "Honestly, Dorothy, you make everything harder than it needs to be. We've all been running around trying to make this weekend nice. You show up early, and now everyone has to rearrange things around an old burden." An old burden. No one laughed. No one spoke. Even Kelsey seemed to realize she had gone too far, but she did not apologize. I looked at her for several seconds. Then I smiled. I understand exactly what is happening. Her shoulders relaxed. She thought I had surrendered. That was her second mistake. I went back to my rental car, took my suitcase, and drove to a small inn near the harbor. I checked in under my own name, ordered tea, and sat at a little desk by the window. I did not cry. I opened my notebook. At 40:18 p.m., I began writing down the vehicles, the guests, the towels, the damaged garden, the use of Raymond's toolbox, Kelsey's words, and the limited permission I had actually given. Then I opened my laptop. The deed was there. The tax records were there. The insurance policy was there. Every renovation receipt was there. And then I found what I was looking for, the signed access agreement, Eric's signature. Date, conditions, no unauthorized guests, no overnight stays without written permission, no transferring access, no moving owner's personal property. I printed it at the front desk. Then I printed the messages from Thursday. I placed everything in a folder. That should have been enough, but something inside me said I needed to go back early. At 8 the next morning, I returned to the cottage. The driveway was still full. The garden looked worse in daylight. Someone had stepped directly through the hydrangea bed. A planter was broken near the back steps. Food wrappers were blowing near the fence. I walked to the front door and put my key into the lock. It would not turn. I tried again. Nothing. I felt the first real flash of fear. Had they changed my locks? I knocked hard. After nearly a minute, Kelsey's younger brother opened the door wearing pajama pants. He looked annoyed. "Can I help you?" "You can move." He blinked. "I'm sorry. This is my home." He stepped aside. Inside, people were sleeping on sofas and air mattresses. The dining table had a fresh mark across one corner. There was food ground into a rug. One of my lamps had been moved to the floor. Then I noticed the empty spaces. 2 framed photographs were missing from the mantel. A small side table was gone. The basket where I kept Raymond's letters was not beside the bookcase. I walked into the hallway. Several hooks were empty. My coat was gone. I called out, "Kelsey." She appeared upstairs a moment later. "What now? Where are my belongings?" "What belongings?" "My photographs, my coats." "My things," her mother answered from behind me. "They're in the garage." Kelsey moved some things so the children would have more space. I turned slowly. "Show me." Kelsey followed me through the kitchen. When I opened the garage door, I stopped trash bags, black plastic trash bags, at least a dozen. Some were tied shut, others were open. Inside them were my clothes, curtains, notebooks, framed photographs, family albums, spare linens, old letters, and personal items. My wedding portrait was leaning against a box of cleaning supplies. Raymond's navy cardigan was stuffed into a bag with beach towels. The side table was pushed behind bicycles. For several seconds, I could not move. Then Kelsey said, "See, nothing is damaged. I just organized. I took out my phone. I photographed the wedding portrait, the trash bags, Raymond's cardigan, the moved furniture, and the broken frame." Kelsey's voice sharpened. "Why are you taking pictures?" I kept photographing. "Because memories can be challenged. Photographs are harder to argue with." "You are making this so dramatic." I looked at her. "You packed my life into trash bags. You barely stay here. That does not make my life available for storage." She crossed her arms. "This house is too much for you anyway." There it was. The real thought, she continued before I could answer. "You're in your 70s. You live halfway across the country most of the year. Eric and I have talked about how much easier it would be if we started managing the place." Managing. Yes, maintenance, guests, expenses, eventually legal things, legal things. She looked away, you know what I mean. I knew exactly what she meant. She had not come for a tray. She had come to practice ownership. My phone rang. "Eric," I answered and put him on speaker. "Mom," he said, "Kelsey says you arrived early and made everyone uncomfortable." Kelsey stared at me. "Is that what she told you?" I asked, "Mom, please." "I'm just trying to understand." "Then listen carefully." I described the vehicles, the guests, the broken garden, the locked door, the trash bags, the photo overnight stay. Then I told him exactly what Kelsey had called me. There was a long silence. Finally, Eric said, "Kelsey, is that true?" She moved closer to the phone. "It was one weekend. Your mother is making it sound criminal because she hates not being in control." I asked if it's true. I didn't say it exactly like that. A woman standing near the garage entrance spoke before anyone else could. "You called her an old burden yesterday." Kelsey spun around. "Why are you getting involved?" The woman looked embarrassed. "Because you told us Dorothy approved the weekend." Eric heard every word. His voice changed. "Kelsey, did my mother approve this?" No answer. "Kelsey, she knew people might come." "No, she did not," I said. "I have the messages. I read them aloud. His message asking permission to collect a serving tray. My reply approving a short visit. My sentence stating no overnight visitors. His answer, "Understood. I'll tell her." Then I said, "Eric, I also have the access agreement you signed." He exhaled. "I remember." Kelsey snapped, "What agreement?" I looked at her. That was the moment I realized she truly did not know about it. Eric had never mentioned it. The document she had forgotten existed was not something she had signed. It was something her husband had signed before she ever started calling my house a family retreat. I said, "The agreement that controls how the emergency key may be used." Kelsey's face changed. Eric spoke quietly. "I'm coming." He arrived less than an hour later. I watched him walk up the path. He stopped when he saw the crushed flowers. Then he saw the bags in the garage. His face went pale. Kelsey met him near the kitchen. "This is ridiculous," she said. "Your mother is turning everyone against me." Eric looked at her. Then he looked at the apron she was still wearing. "Take that off." She blinked. "What? My mother made that? Take it off?" "Eric, seriously." "I am serious." Kelsey untied the apron and dropped it onto a chair. I picked it up, folded it, and placed it on my suitcase. Then I handed Eric the printed agreement. He read it. Kelsey tried to look over his shoulder. I watched her eyes move across the page. Approved access only. No unapproved overnight guests. No transfers of access. No moving personal belongings. Any violation could result in immediate revocation. At the bottom was Eric's signature. Kelsey's mother made a sound of disbelief. "You made your son sign a contract to visit family property." I answered before Eric could. "It is not family property." As she opened her mouth, I continued. It is my property. Kelsey laughed bitterly. Fine, your precious property. Is that what this is about? A piece of paper. No, I held up my phone. This is about the piece of paper, the messages, the photographs, the damaged garden, the locked door, my belongings in trash bags, and the fact that you told me to leave the house I own. She shook her head. You're blowing everything up because you want to humiliate me. I said, you invited people into my home by telling them you had permission. If the truth humiliates you, the problem is not the truth. That was when Eric sat down. He looked exhausted. For years he had tried to survive difficult moments by making himself smaller. But there was nowhere left to disappear. I looked at my watch. It is 9:10. Everyone has until 11 to gather their belongings and leave. Kelsey stared at me. You can't be serious. I am. My family drove hours to be here. That was your decision. You'll throw children out. I am asking their parents to take them home. Her mother stepped forward. You would involve lawyers against family. If necessary, I placed the folder on the table. I have already documented the property condition. I have the deed, the signed agreement, the text messages and photographs. I also have the receipt from the hotel where I had to sleep because I was told there was no room for me in my own home. Kelsey scoffed. So what? You're going to sue us over a weekend. I am going to protect my home. She looked at Eric. Say something. He rubbed his face. Then, for the first time I could remember, he did not defend her. We need to leave, he said. Kelsey stared at him. You're choosing her? No, he said. I'm finally admitting what happened. Her face hardened. This is unbelievable. I said nothing. I did not need to. Packing began fast. People who had been laughing on my porch the night before suddenly avoided looking at me. A few apologized, and one cousin quietly helped me remove photographs from the bags. Outside, Eric asked several teenagers to pick up cups and trash. He stood the broken planters upright. He carried luggage. He swept sand from the floor. Kelsey complained the entire time. At one point, I heard her say, she has no idea how lonely she is going to be after this. I walked into the hallway. No, Kelsey, I know exactly what loneliness feels like. I buried my husband. I came home to an empty bed. I drank coffee across from his chair for months. Being alone is painful sometimes, but it is not nearly as painful as allowing people to disrespect you just so you can say you have company. She had no answer. At 11:15, the last car pulled away. The sudden quiet was almost shocking. The cottage looked tired. So did Eric. He stood beside the dining table. Mom, I'm sorry, I nodded. I believe you. I should have stopped this sooner. Wes, he looked down. I kept telling myself I was neutral. That is what you told yourself because it was easier. I didn't want to make Kelsey angry. So you allowed me to absorb the cost of keeping her comfortable. His eyes filled. I did not enjoy saying it, but truth is not cruelty simply because it hurts. I added, when someone is crossing a boundary and you stay silent, silence is not neutral. It protects the person crossing the boundary. He nodded. I understand. I hope you do. That afternoon, I called a locksmith. The locksmith examined the front door and confirmed what I had suspected. Someone had altered the lock cylinder. My old key no longer worked because the lock had been changed. That mattered. Until then, Kelsey could still pretend the weekend had simply gotten out of hand. Changing my lock was different. That required planning. I called my attorney. I called my insurance company. I sent photographs. I sent the messages. I sent the signed agreement. I sent the hotel receipt. Then I revoked Eric's access in writing. No more emergency key, no access code, no unapproved entry. Every future visit would require my permission. Eric stood beside me while I removed his code from the security system. He looked hurt. He did not argue. 2 days later, my attorney called with another surprise. The locksmith had noticed the new cylinder was not a cheap temporary replacement. It had been installed properly, and the receipt we found in a kitchen drawer showed it had been purchased 3 days before my arrival. 3 days. That meant Kelsey had changed the lock before I got there. Not after an argument, not in confusion. Before, I called Eric. Did you know she changed the lock? No. Are you sure? Mom, I swear. I believed him. His voice sounded genuinely shocked. That evening, he confronted her. I know because he called me afterward. Kelsey admitted she had changed it because she wanted cleaner key system for the weekend. I asked one question. Who gave her permission? No one. That was the final piece I needed. My attorney sent a formal notice revoking any claim of access and documenting the unauthorized lock change, guest occupancy, property movement, and damage. I did not file a lawsuit. I did not need to. The notice did something more useful. It created a permanent record. It made it impossible for anyone to later say there had been confusion over whether Kelsey had permission to use the cottage. Then came the part Kelsey hated most: the bill, hotel, locksmith. Professional cleaning, garden repair, broken frames, damaged furniture, replacement rug, minor carpentry. Eric reimbursed every dollar. He did not ask me to split the cost. He said, I should have handled this before it reached this point. I agreed. Kelsey called me several times. I let the calls go to voicemail. The first message was angry. You've made Eric feel like a criminal over a misunderstanding. The second was defensive. I'm sorry things got out of control, but you have to understand everyone was excited. The third sounded softer. I hope we can move past this. Family should not stay divided over one bad weekend. Not one message contained the words I needed. I was wrong. I disrespected you. I had no right to change your lock. I had no right to move your belongings. I had no right to call you a burden. She was not apologizing. She was asking for the consequences to end. There is a difference. So I did not call back. 3 months later, Eric visited me in Minneapolis. He brought a package wrapped in brown paper. Inside was my wedding photograph. The frame had been repaired. We sat at my old kitchen table, the same table where Raymond and I had paid bills, argued about paint colors, helped Eric with school projects, and counted the money in the envelope marked the C. Eric ran one hand across the wood. I'm not asking you to forgive Kelsey. Good. He almost smiled. Then his face became serious. I spent years thinking that if I stayed quiet, I was keeping everyone together. You were keeping yourself away from discomfort. I know. He looked toward Raymond's empty chair. I failed you. I took a breath. You failed to protect a boundary. That matters, but it is not the same as being beyond repair. He looked at me. What would repair look like? Change. Anything else? Consistency. I explained the new rules. He would not have a key. Every visit to the cottage would be approved in advance. No additional guests unless I agreed in writing. No borrowing personal items. No access without me knowing. If Kelsey ever returned, she would enter as a guest, not as an owner, not as a future owner, not as someone entitled to manage my life because I was getting older. Eric agreed to everything. Then he asked, do you still want me there? That question broke my heart a little. Of course I do. You are my son. He lowered his eyes. But being my son does not mean you are entitled to every part of my life without conditions. He nodded. Trust is not rebuilt by a beautiful apology. It returns through ordinary actions. Showing up, asking instead of assuming, respecting locked doors, and accepting no without punishment. For months, Eric did those things. Then, the following spring, something happened I did not expect. He called me late one evening. Mom, Kelsey, and I separated. I was quiet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your marriage is hurting. That does not mean I think every marriage should remain unchanged no matter what happens inside it. He sighed. She still thinks the real problem was that you embarrassed her. What do you think? I think she embarrassed herself. He paused. And I think I almost let her take your piece because I was afraid to confront her. That was the first apology he gave me without immediately explaining himself, without asking me to say it was okay, without asking me to comfort him. I noticed. That summer, he asked permission to visit the cottage. He did not say, I'm coming. He asked, Mom, would it be all right if I came for 2 days in August? Alone? Yes. Then yes. He arrived with one small bag. He brought groceries. He repaired a loose porch board without being asked. He asked before opening a bottle of wine. I nearly laughed when he did that. What? Nothing, I said. Growth can be very ordinary. That evening we sat in the 2 wooden chairs facing the ocean. The hydrangeas were blooming again. The brass clock ticked behind the open screen door. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then Eric said, Dad would have been heartbroken by what happened here. Wes, I forgot what this place meant to you. I looked toward the water. No, sweetheart, you did not forget what it meant. He waited. You forgot that loving someone does not give them the right to claim what belongs to another person. He nodded. No excuses, no defense. Just a nod. For me, that was enough. I am 73 now. The cottage is still mine. The deed is still in my name. The spare key is locked in a drawer in my apartment. My documents are updated. My attorney has copies. My security system is different, and anyone who visits understands the rules. Some people may think I was too strict or should have forgiven faster. But let me tell you what I learned. Aging does not turn ownership into a public invitation. Love does not erase consent. Family does not cancel respect. And peace becomes more valuable, not less valuable, as the years pass. I spent decades earning the right to sit quietly in a home that belonged to me. I buried the man I loved. I used my savings. I worked with my hands. I rebuilt that cottage board by board. No one gets to reduce that history to, you barely use it. People often think revenge has to be dramatic. Mine was quieter. My revenge was changing the locks. My revenge was revoking access. My revenge was sending a documented bill. My revenge was refusing to accept an apology that never admitted wrongdoing. My revenge was forcing the truth to stand where excuses had been. And my justice was even simpler. I kept my home. I kept my dignity. I kept the memories that mattered. And I stopped paying the emotional price for someone else's entitlement. That weekend taught me something else about silence. Eric believed silence kept the peace. I once believed patience was always a virtue. But patience without boundaries can become permission in the eyes of someone who benefits from your silence. There is nothing wrong with being generous. There is nothing wrong with loving your family deeply. There is nothing wrong with sharing what you have. But sharing is a gift. A gift cannot be taken. The moment someone decides your kindness is an obligation, the relationship has already changed. I also learned not to underestimate the power of records. A notebook, a photograph, a text message, a signed agreement, and a deed are not emotional. That is exactly why they matter when emotions become chaotic. Kelsey wanted the argument to be about whether I was controlling. The documents made the argument about facts. Who owned the home? I did. Who had permission to enter? Eric, under specific conditions. Who had permission to invite overnight guests? No one. Who changed the lock? Kelsey. Who moved my belongings? Kelsey and her family. Who paid for the damage? Eric did. Facts have a way of clearing fog. And sometimes the best thing an older person can do is refuse to let younger people speak as though age has made reality negotiable. Before I finish, let me summarize what happened. I returned to the beach cottage I had bought and rebuilt after my husband Raymond died. I expected a peaceful weekend. Instead, my daughter-in-law Kelsey had used an emergency key to fill the house with her relatives and friends. She treated the property like her own, moved my belongings into trash bags, damaged the garden, changed the lock, called me an old burden, and expected me to sleep somewhere else. I did not scream. I documented. I saved the messages. I photographed the house. I found the signed key agreement. I proved exactly what permission had been given and exactly how far she had gone beyond it. Then I removed everyone, revoked access, changed the locks, involved my attorney, recovered the cost of the damage, and made sure there would never again be confusion about who owned my home. My son learned that silence is not neutral when someone is crossing a boundary. He learned that avoiding conflict can become a way of protecting the person causing harm. And I learned that I did not need anyone's permission to defend the life I had built. The lesson from my story is simple. Your age does not make your peace less important. Your generosity does not make your property public. Your love does not require unlimited access. Forgiveness does not require restored trust. And boundaries do not make you cruel. Healthy people may not love every boundary you set, but they will understand that respect must exist inside every relationship. Someone who becomes angry only because you finally said no may have been benefiting from the fact that you used to say yes. Do not be afraid to write things down. Do not be afraid to protect your home. Do not be afraid to say, this belongs to me. Do not be afraid to disappoint people who were counting on your silence. And do not believe that growing older means becoming invisible. Some of the strongest decisions of my life happened after 70, not because I became harder, because I finally understood that peace is something you are allowed to protect. Thank you for staying with me to the end of my story. Please like this story, leave a comment, and tell me where you are listening from. I would also love to know what you would have done if you arrived at your own home and found someone treating it as theirs. And remember this, the day Kelsey called me an old burden, she thought age had made me easy to remove. She was wrong. Age had simply taught me what not to carry anymore. and the first thing I put down was other people's entitlement.